Hello and welcome back to Entertain This, a podcast about movies, TV shows, and video games. And today, interviews. I'm not joined by Mitch and Hayden. They decided to flake out and not be here, so I'm manning the podcast on my own. And with me, I have James Urbaniak. James, how the heck are you?
I'm great, and I'm happy to be a guest and co-host by default. I always wanted to co-host a podcast.
And now's your chance. Here we are. We'll add it to your list of credits, I see.
Totally.
Here. So, James, I mean, what a career you've had.
Well, thanks.
Starting from, I guess, 1983, where you went on stage on the late night with David Letterman, all the way
that's
to
before
now.
I turned pro. That's when I was a civilian.
That was
But
a
yes,
civilian.
there was an incident. I loved that show at the time. I mean, I still do. And yeah, I was in the audience, and he came out and told a joke. I was very excited to see the show. I lived in New Jersey at the time, and of course the show was taped in New York, so I got tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Had to do this through the mail back then. There was no internet, as young people may not realize this, but no home computers. So I sent for my tickets. I got them in the mail. I went with my friend Anthony, and we went to the show. And I had seen the show the night before, and in his monologue the night before, he started to tell a joke, and he fumbled on the words, and he just went on to the next thing. So the night I'm there, the day I'm there, because they taped during the day, he tells the same joke and fumbles it again.
Twice.
And in a moment of youthful enthusiasm. Oh, and then he said, by the way, oh, damn it, this is the second night I screwed this joke up. And he kind of took a beat. And then without really thinking, I piped up, can I try it? And he laughed and then invited me on stage. And then I told the joke somewhat poorly. I was like 19 years old at the time. And then I went back upstage, and that was that. But I was thrilled. I'd never been on TV before. I was vaguely interested in acting, but I was nowhere near thinking about that seriously. So, and as soon as I got on stage, I could see myself on the monitor. I remember he's a tall man. I'm 5'10", but he's taller than me. So I'm like looking up at him, and I remember thinking, was this a mistake? But then I just kind of went for it. And then I had an old VHS tape of that in the 80s, which I accidentally erased at one point.
No.
And time went by, the internet became a thing, YouTube became a thing, and someone found that clip and posted it on YouTube. And I must say, much to my regret, because I look at that tape and I'm like, that is a very awkward. I'm not the suave character you hear right now, Tom. I was a gangly, awkward youth, but it's history, and that was my brush with greatness. But then it was quite a while before I would appear on television again as a professional actor. So that's the Letterman story.
Is the Letterman, I guess, is that what started your interest in doing this? Like, you got up there and just kind of in the back of your mind was like, I could probably take over late night. They don't need Letterman.
Well, I got to say, I was interested. I was drawn to acting, and at that time, I was going to a community college in New Jersey and doing a lot of plays there, and also doing like community theater and stuff. So I was very drawn to acting as an amateur.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, at 19. I thought I wanted to be like something else. Like, I was studying graphic arts in school, and I was a cartoonist, and I thought I wanted to do something like be an artist or a graphic designer or something. And I just acted for fun. But eventually the acting is where all my energy went. But I do remember that moment very well. It was certainly my first time in a TV studio.
Do you remember the joke?
I do remember the joke was something to the effect that the New York prison system had instituted a lottery. And I think in real life, the lottery was some sort of parole thing, right? If your name came up, you might be eligible for parole early if they thought you were suitable. So that was the concept. The New York prison system had instituted a lottery. Then the punchline was, inmates can win a chance at a brutal crime spree. It's a very Letterman joke.
Yeah, that's a pretty Letterman kind of sounded joke.
Yeah. And the phrase brutal crime spree is very Letterman. And I remember I love Letterman, so I tried to put kind of a stress on that, kind of italicize those brutal crime spree. But I was young and nervous and awkward, and I didn't sell it particularly well. And then he kind of did a kind of, okay, kid, why don't you just get back up there?
That's like there's great
But
moments
I
in
gotta
history
say,
like that.
I gotta say that's a tribute to what that show was at that time, Late Night with David Letterman. Pre-CBS, the original 12:30 NBC show, very early in that show's
Mhm.
history. It had only been on 1 or 2 years. And there was a anything can happen quality to that show. I don't think he would have invited someone down on the CBS show later, like in the 90s,
No, I think
which
at
is
that point probably not.
which is not it, which is I don't have a problem with that. He changed, the style of the show changed somewhat, but there was a real unpredictable quality to Late Night with David Letterman. And so that was sort of in keeping with the spirit of that show. He just let crazy things happen. And he was still a master broadcaster and comedian later, but I think he was less interested in that sort of anarchy.
That
That
kind
might
of
occur,
loose
you know what I mean?
filming.
What's that?
That kind of like loose filming and show setup. Where it's just like, oh, you think you could do better? Well, you come up here and just, people coming right out of the audience.
Yeah.
It's like with the Who.
He's always interacted with audiences. He would always do things where he'd come up and talk to people. So that was part of his vocabulary. But yeah, I was young and I was just thrilled to be there, and I just saw my moment.
Do you think you'd ever do a recreation? Like we get David
What's that?
Letterman and, it's like, hey, we're going to do a throwback. We're going to do it one more time and
My
have you
God.
come up now.
I mean, I think I would be, if I ever met him again, I guess I'd have to bring it up, right?
Have you met
But
him since?
I'm not proud of it. No, never. No.
Oh, he's got to remember it. I'm sure he does.
It's possible, but he did a lot of shows. So, that was something I'll never forget. But, he's done a lot. So it may not ring a bell for him. It was 40 years ago. My God.
Oh, man. I remember Letterman
Yes.
and
The implacable march of time.
Yep. It keeps marching on and on and
It
on.
does.
Every year I get up and on a birthday and it's like, man, why does my knee hurt now or my neck or my back? Now, looking
Indeed.
at all these television credits, your film credits, there's a couple of credits that stuck out to me in a different genre that I wanted to talk about first. Video
Please.
games.
Yes, I've done a few. This is funny because in real life, I don't really play any video games. It's slightly generational. As I said, I was 19 in 1983, so they weren't a thing back then. I do know people my age who are into them. I just never kind of got into them, but I'm an actor and I do voiceovers now and then, and so I've done a few voices on games. And then another irony is that my wife is the art director at a video game company. So she actually works in the industry.
Oh, does she?
And that company actually hired me to do some voices once. And I've gotten some other VO gigs through the connections I've met through my wife. But yes, so I've done voices in several, but I haven't played them.
It might be, I guess, the generational thing. My parents, like their big gaming experience was Nintendo 64.
Sure.
And I'd wake up in the middle of the night.
I'm kind of weird. I don't like games in general. Like if I'm with a group and they bring in a board game, I will play, but I'm not very competitive in that kind of thing. I just sort of audit the game.
Well, we try to be competitive, but then it just descends in the anarchy and madness as we start yelling at each other or just giving each other, or we just end up having a whole conversation while we're just mindlessly playing. And then all of a sudden, all of us died, and we look around. It's like, oh, whoops.
You know what I like to play, Tom, is the game of life. That's the game I like to play.
I want that as an audio clip button. The way you said that was masterful.
And I don't mean the board game Life.
No, not that.
From the 60s. I mean La Vie.
But just for anybody who's listening and doesn't have access to just look this up immediately. I mean, credits for video games, Manhunts 1 and 2. And that's going back
was an early one, yeah.
To my youth. Avatar the game for the James Cameron
I forgot
film.
about that one, actually.
Fallout New Vegas.
Fallout New Vegas is a popular one. A lot of people like that one. I play a character named Dr. O, who is also known as Dr. Zero.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a popular one. I'm also in the New Republic, the Star Wars video game, where I play an android.
C2D4 or
Yes.
Needles.
Not C3PO. He's got different letters and numbers, but a
You're his brother.
similarly sort of high-strung android.
I mean, what we got? The Codename
Yeah,
Steam, the Magic
video games are
Circle,
fun, but
Redfall, Destiny 2, the Final Shape, the big expansion that came out not long ago.
I mean, I've done all these things, but I go in, I record, and then that's that. And then other people play them.
We'll be right back.
Ever wondered what a rhythm-based stealth game with dinosaurs might look like? Or a farming sim in space with zombies? Welcome to the Gaming Blender podcast. I'm Matt, and with my co-host Scott, we take a random game genre and random game mechanics, blend them all up, and pitch wild, totally hypothetical games you've never heard of, and maybe shouldn't. New episodes every other week. Hit play and unleash your inner game dev. No coding required. Search the Gaming Blender on your favorite podcast app now.
I will say there's been a huge uptick in actors who, in film and on television shows coming in to do video game voiceovers.
Oh, well, sure. And because a lot of them have gotten very sophisticated,
Absolutely.
And
especially like Grand Theft
cinematic.
Auto.
And so they'll get, and their vocal performances become important. So, yeah, I don't have anything against them. And obviously, I just personally don't really play them. But I've done a lot of TV procedurals, but like I haven't seen every episode of Law and Order or whatnot.
I don't think I've ever met a person who's ever seen every episode of Law and Order. I don't think it's possible to watch all of it in one lifetime in this game of life.
Exactly.
Now going back to the acting career itself, you said you started out in theater.
Oh yeah.
What was your first theater experiences? I myself had not acted in a stage play, but I stood on stage and did a podcast once, and that's as close as I've ever gotten to acting.
Well, I got to say, before I thought about doing this as a little kid, just in elementary school, I was in some school plays and stuff, and I was very drawn to it. Looking back, I know that I was, it's a funny thing when you're a kid, sometimes you're drawn to stuff, you don't even know why, and then later it becomes important to you as an adult, like whatever. Someone becomes an astronomer, and when they were a kid, they was looking at the sky, Before you think about career, there's stuff that you're just drawn to. It's like in your DNA. So I think I did have a very strong connection with performing. I enjoyed doing it as a kid, never professionally, just like school plays, stuff we did in class, doing little skits in school or whatever. But I was always really drawn to that. And then when I went to this college, I really started getting into it. I did a lot of plays. But even then, like I said, I was thinking about doing something else for a living, like being an artist or something. But then eventually the theater just took over. And then the big event in my life was I met a theater director, long story short, a woman named Karen Coonrod. And she was, at the time I met her, she was going to Columbia University to get a master's in theater directing. She had actually been a teacher an English teacher in New Jersey, but she actually started directing plays at the school and then thought, wait a minute, I like this. Maybe this is what I should be doing, directing.
Can I get paid to do this?
What's that?
It's like, can I get paid to do this?
And I get paid to do something that I'm really energized by and love. Exactly.
And that point, you're off to the races.
She was about to kind of switch careers, or was switching careers. And I was a young slacker. I think at that point I'd stopped going to college and dropped out, but I was just working day jobs and hanging out with my friends on the Jersey Shore. But always doing amateur plays and community theater and stuff. And so I met this person who was really serious about doing this. And we're in New Jersey, and she said, well, I want to form a theater company. I want to go to New York and start a company. And then a little light bulb went off, and I thought, you know what? This makes sense. And so that's what brought me into New York. So then we started producing ourselves. It was kind of like being in a band, low budget affair. We had a core group of people that we work with. But then at that time in New York, there was a very supportive and active so-called off-off-Broadway community, like people doing, most of the stuff was downtown in Manhattan. And it was really an exciting time where people were doing, original plays and classic plays for very little money, but there were spaces. This is a long time ago. This is like late 80s into the early to mid 90s. New York has changed so much. Like
It
most
has.
companies, I think, have gotten priced out of Manhattan. But back then we could actually like rent a space and do a little show. And slowly but surely we got attention. So that's when it started being serious for me. But back then it was just about doing these plays and meeting other people downtown. In fact, last night I went to a play in LA by a great theater company. They
Oh,
have
yeah?
they're called Elevator Repair Service, but they're a wonderful theater company that do these original plays. And they started out like around the time I started out, and they still exist. Like, 30 odd years later, they're still doing these wonderful plays. And same guy directs them, a brilliant guy named John Collins. So a lot of my oldest friends are people I met on that scene, and
Mhm.
many of whom are still involved in that. But then one thing led to another. I was in New York, and you just you put yourself in that position. You just meet people, and eventually I met some independent film directors, and so the door opened up to doing some film, and then eventually I got an agent and all that, and
Mhm.
one thing kind of led to another. But I basically spent my 20s doing like low budget theater in New York quite happily, and always working day jobs. My day job was temping. I would temp in offices doing like secretarial work.
As
I
someone
didn't do
who's
the waiter
from
thing. I did like the typing thing.
as someone who's from New York myself, 90s, 2000s New York, just hearing the stories of 1980s New York, it's like it was like a movie to everyone. Like the way people just talk about
Oh
how New
yeah,
York
I mean
City
it
was back then.
was kind of the yeah, because I moved in the late 80s, sort of right before Giuliani and the so-called Disneyfication of Manhattan.
Hmm.
It was still like some 70s holdover. It was a little grungier back then.
Hmm. Had a little
Like
grit to it.
if you weren't looking to buy drugs, you didn't go past Avenue A. It was considered a little scary. Now that's all like, coffee shops
The
and
farther north you went into Manhattan, it was kind of like, you sure?
yeah, yeah. A lot has changed, but that's the nature of the city. I'm very glass half full about New York. Like,
Mhm.
a lot of old timers go, "Oh, it's not as good as it used to be." And I feel, yeah, everyone said that. People in the 1950s were like, "Yeah, but you should have seen Manhattan in the 30s. It was much better." You know,
People in
Businesses closed, things
1700s were
changed.
looking back on, man, those guys in the 1600s, they really had it.
That's right.
And it
The
just
original
goes on and
Dutch
on and
settlers, they
on.
knew what New York was about.
Everybody, New
Yeah,
York
so
is New
I love
York.
that city, but I live in LA now, but I get back there fairly. I was there a couple of months ago and I love it.
I have not been back since I left in 2006.
Yeah. I
And
still have family there and in New Jersey, and like I say, a lot of friends, and also just work comes up fairly. They shoot a lot of stuff there, so I'll get like TV or movie gigs there.
now, with your theater acting credits or your experiences in the 1980s and these kind of like off-Broadway productions and a lot of community college stuff that you guys were doing back in the 80s and the 90s, what was you'd say your probably most challenging play you had to perform in?
Well, I can tell you what that was, a great play by a great writer named Will Eno. It's a play called Tom Paine, but it's not about the historical. There's a guy named
Thomas
Tom Paine,
Paine.
Revolutionary War. Yeah, it's not about him. It's more of a play on words. It's a guy who might be named Tom, who's in some kind of pain. But Tom Paine is a solo play. It's a one-man show. So it's like an hour and 15-minute monologue. So it's
Were you
just this
Tom?
character talking to the audience. And it's a really great play. This guy is like talking to the audience, and then you start learning about him, and he's funny, but he's also kind of neurotic, and sometimes he gets kind of aggressive
Hmm.
and like acts like an asshole to the audience, and all this stuff is going on. It's this sort of really interesting character study by a really talented writer who's also a very funny writer. So there's also a lot of jokes in the play. And in fact, the New York Times reviewed it, and they sort of said the character's almost like a stand-up,
Hmm.
the way he talks. But there's no ad-libbing. It was scripted, so I had to learn a freaking hour and 15-minute monologue. I forget how many pages
My
that was. And you have
God.
to know all these words. And then it's just you. So normally when you're acting, part of the choices you make are based on what other actors are doing, you know, and you're responding to each other. And now and then you have a breather. You can temper your performance. You know what I'm
You
saying?
can pull like a Richard Harrison, Peter
It's
O'Toole.
just me, but we had a great director and a great writer, and we figured it out. And that was very satisfying creatively, but also obviously like a great challenge to just be up there by yourself. You're like, well, it's just me, so I better know what I'm doing up here. We worked hard on that play, and it was very well received, and it went very well. But that was definitely like one of the most challenging and satisfying plays I've ever done. Tom Paine.
I mean, that's
Great play.
got to be a very rewarding experience to be able to do an hour plus monologue, one man play. It's just you, and you got all this whole audience. They're all just staring right at you, and you're going through
right at you. Yeah.
Going through the gauntlet of emotion to nail the certain aspects of the character and convey it to an audience.
There was also a fun thing in the writing where it's never really explained when the character is talking to people. It's just like he's some guy and he suddenly finds himself in front of an audience, so he starts talking about his life, you know? Kind of like a stand-up would, except the writing is much more, it's just different. It's a different style, you know? But there's also a thing where the character will like stop, he'll forget something, he'll get a new idea, he'll get distracted. And we really tried to make it seem like there was a balance where sometimes people would be like, is James Urbaniak forgetting something or having a moment? Or is it the character? And it was always the character. But the idea was to make those moments so real that it gave this sort of weird tension to the performance, you know, because that was what the character was like. He was kind of one of these classic unreliable narrators, you know. So he would sort of trip up now and then. And it was interesting. So yeah, there was a lot to play with in that show. And I learned a lot doing that I apply to, you know, other stuff where you know, not solo performances, just because it's a real workout when you're doing, you know, theater requires sort of different muscles than like film and TV. So that was like a very rigorous kind of workout. It was a great experience.
A few actors we had talked to in the past who had theater experience and then had transitioned into filmmaking or television or movies. They're like, it's like learning how to walk all over again.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Because when I had done like theater in New York for about 10 years before I did a film, you know? So yeah, I had been acting pretty seriously for a while, and then pretty much through my 20s. And then when I got into my 30s, I started to have some opportunities to act on film. And you just kind of learn, you know, there are things you can do. You start learning some tricks and some, you know, technique that suits film, you know, but as an actor, you're still basically trying to do the same thing.
Was there any, like, I guess, old guard kind of people around that, like, kind of pull you aside and, like, you know, basically just put you under the wing? And it's like, hey, kid, like, you're doing great, you know, try this.
Well, I got to say, another sort of mentor for me was a great film director. He is a great film director. He's still making stuff, named Hal Hartley, who's a New York-based director. He's worked in the independent film world since the early 90s. And actually, the first film I ever did was a short that Hal made. Oh, yeah? Like 1994, that Parker Posey was in, because it was the 90s in New York, and you had to have Parker in the great actor.
Is it New York City 3-94? Is it listed out as a short film?
That's not the first one, but that's another short I did around that time.
And
that year in 94, I did a couple of, it's called Opera Number One. It was short, kind of a comedic short musical thing. Well, I sing in that, but we're all dubbed, so we're not actually doing our own singing in that. But yeah, and then a couple of years later, Hal put me in a movie called Henry Fool, which was really my first big movie it was an independent movie, relatively low budget, but it came out and it got reviewed like in major publications, and it played in theaters. So that was sort of my, I did a couple of low budget movies before that, but that was one where I really learned a lot. And Hal was a very good director. Hal's interesting because he used to go to a lot of that theater I'm talking about, that kind of off-Broadway theater at that time. That's where he saw me. He saw me do some theater downtown, and a lot of his actors came out of that world. But he also is a very smart film director. So on the set, when he directed, he would give me some good advice now and then, like, try it this way. Or it's almost a cliche to say do less, but he would say that sometimes because, sometimes you can be more effective in a movie by withholding an emotion than showing it. Because then then the camera sees the character struggling with something. Sometimes that's more interesting than just like, oh, I'm suffering,
Instead of like screaming it out, like I'm in deep shit.
And then, in the theater, sometimes the bigger gesture is good because you're in a big theater and you want to fill the stage. You know what I mean? But sometimes, and there are exceptions to both these roles. But so he was very good at helping me sort of temper my instincts and kind of adapt to being in a movie. And I learned a lot working with him as someone I worked with very early in my film career, who's a very smart guy who understood sort of film language and stuff. So yeah, Hal was definitely, and he was a little older than me. So he was definitely, he was not that much older than me, but he was definitely like a mentor to me. And he was definitely like hey kid.
Like an older kind of brother.
Yeah.
It's like, hey kid, you're effing it up out there. You're bombing. Get it together.
But he's an awesome guy, and he's still out there making stuff. If people don't know his work, I recommend it. The movie we made is called Henry Fool, but I've done a few things with him. But I really recommend his stuff. It's really good and interesting and very funny.
Well, I'll definitely have to check him out, and we'll recommend him on the podcast and plug his stuff too later on at the end. And
this interview is like a list of these people who are very important to me, who kind of taught me stuff. It's a theme here.
One question I do love to ask people, because everybody's always had different experiences and seen and done a lot of different things. And it's always fun to ask this question. It's like, what was your big starstruck moment where you kind of like, oh my God, that's so-and-so?
So I've met, when you're an actor, I'm just a working actor. I'm not like famous like Tom Hanks or whatever, but I do stuff and people know who I am in the industry. So now and then you rub shoulders with famous people. So I've met some famous people. I've met Tom Cruise. I've worked with Steven Spielberg, blah, blah. And it's great. Those are fun experiences. But normally when I meet someone, it's usually in a work environment or at some industry event. So I feel comfortable talking to these people because I'm not like a guy in the street just running up to them. You kind of feel like, oh, well, we're both supposed to be in this room, so I can talk to Cruise or whatever, and so you kind of play it cool. You're kind of like relaxed, and I'm usually very happy to meet these people, but I'm like, we're both in the same business. But the one time I was like a blabbering fanboy who could not control my excitement, and this is very generational, is the first time I met a member of Monty Python. I met Eric Idle.
No way. You met Eric?
Yeah, in LA a few years ago. And I was just like, it was like meeting a Beatle. It was like meeting Paul McCartney or some shit. Because for my generation in particular, I was in junior high when Monty Python started showing on American TV. It showed on PBS.
Oh, wow,
and it's such a brilliant, funny show. And it was like unlike anything we'd ever seen. And so I met him and I was just flabbergasted. Because normally I'm like, hey, great to meet you, I'm James Urbaniak.
Hey, I'm James.
And I was like, it's so nice to meet you, Mr. I.
Hi, Mr. Brave Sir Robert.
I was stunned. I was beside myself. And I got to say, he was very, very nice. He was very gentlemanly and very, very kind. But that was the most starstruck I've been. And since then, I've met Terry Gilliam.
No,
and the late Terry Jones. I had the pleasure of meeting Terry Jones, another great Python. He sadly died relatively, young for,
I think he died within like last 5 years.
And when I met those guys, I was thrilled to meet them both, but I'd already met one Python. Idle was like, I popped my cherry with that one. But yeah, that was 100% the most excited I've been to meet a famous person was Eric Idle from Monty Python.
I mean, I have the movies. I have Flying Circus, like the whole box set, and just
forget about it.
I'd lose it if I saw one of them in real life.
No, and I'm one of those annoying, nerdy, middle-aged men who can like quote the entirety of their movies and sketches. You got to shut me up. It's not good.
Like they forgot what they did. It's like you were in this. So I know.
That was a big one.
I know it's kind of like a running gag where a lot of people mistake Eric Idle for Michael Palin.
I can see, I suppose if you're not as serious a fan, you might make that mistake, though I would never.
Like and Eric Idle has talked about it because it happens to him all the time where people walk up and go, "Hey, like you're in Monty Python, I've seen your travel shows. You're Michael Palin." And then he's like, exactly. Once they call me Michael, I immediately insult them, tell them to F off, and I leave.
Yeah, that's right.
This way, because I'm slowly ruining Michael Palin's reputation.
That's fantastic. And Michael Palin has the reputation of being like the nicest Python, you know.
Yes, he does. Versus Eric is, I guess, a little more.
But no, I'd love to meet Michael, and I'd love to meet John Cleese, obviously. Then I'd have met them all. Couldn't meet Graham Chapman because he died very young.
In 1989.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So being a fan of the Pythons, I guess, would that make you a fan of Fawlty Towers?
Oh, totally. I mean, John Cleese is fantastic. John Cleese may be the best actor of the Pythons, just in terms of range, you know, pound for pound, just in terms of acting ability. But he's hilarious, you know. I know he's become kind of you know, he's old. He's like a crank on Twitter. Sometimes he seems a little like boring. Oh, you can't laugh at anything anymore. It's like, just relax, man. Everything's fine.
And he's like coming from the guy who was the first person to say the F word on television.
Yeah, I mean, I just take that stuff with a grain of salt. But I would be thrilled to meet him, or Michael Palin for that matter. You know,
I'd hope I'd have it together enough to be like, hey, I know you. You're this person. I'm a huge fan. You have a great day. Instead of, you know, hopefully standing there just like, and everybody's like, are you going to say something? It's like, how long have I been standing here staring at this guy for 10 minutes?
I call him by his right name.
Yes, I would hopefully call him by the right name.
Unless I'm feeling mischievous and I'm like, Michael Caine, it's so great to meet you.
I would love to meet Michael Caine.
Call him some other British name.
Call him Maurice Micklewhite just to throw everybody off.
Yeah, there you go.
His actual legal name.
Yeah.
Now, looking through some of your TV credits, there's a show that I noticed on here that's pretty popular. I'm sure a few people have seen it. The Venture Bros.
The Venture Brothers.
The Venture Brothers. And you play Dr. Venture, Phantom Limb, Jonas Venture Jr., and various voices. And that show's been going on for 15 years.
That show, the pilot for that premiered about 20 years ago. And then there were 7 seasons and a sort of finale movie that we made. But there was often a very long turnaround between seasons. It was a small staff. Really, it was written mostly by just 2 guys. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes it'd be a couple years between seasons, which is why we had only 7 seasons, but it's been on for over 20 years. But my God, that's been one of the great gigs of all time because I love the show. Do you know the show, Thomas? I've
seen bits, and the one scene that for some reason lives rent-free in my mind is they're doing the cavity search on Brock Sampson's character. Yes. And he asks for the cigarette, and they take it, and they just give him the business, and he clenches with everything he's got and breaks the dude's hand and starts swinging him around.
Barry Brock, played by Patrick Warburton, the great Patrick Warburton.
Or Putty.
Putty from Seinfeld and so many great things.
And Family Guy. But I remember watching that. I remember when Venture Bros came out on Adult Swim, because it was, at that time in my life, it was very much like, what are you doing? Like, why are you watching Adult Swim? Like, you're not an adult. Like, you're a little kid. Like, you're supposed to be asleep already. And these shows would come on. It'd be Venture Bros and Robot Chicken and stuff like that. And I remember I'd be like waking up. It's like, oh, crap, the Venture Bros are on. And it's weird that 20 years later I'm talking to one of the actors.
That's my longest running job. And you know, it's a classic cult show. A lot of people don't know it, but most of the fans are like diehard fans. It's like, it's, I mean, my experience, people either love it or they're like, what is it? Oh yeah, I think I've heard of that. But those who love it really love it. And we have a very loyal and devoted fan base. And there is a thing where, because it had been on for so long, there's like whole new generations of, you know, people who are like, you know, it's Adult Swim. There's some mild adult content. So not everyone saw it when they were a kid.
Yeah, Adult Swim has been on for so long, and just like the shows I've seen come across that channel is over 20-something years of my life.
Yeah,
like you had the
it's
Venture
very
Bros
early in
and
the
this, and, like,
original Adult Swim
Squidbillies.
programming, you know.
Back in the OG
But
days.
I loved being a part of that. That was just a happy situation where I got that because Jackson Public, the creator of that show, was a friend of mine in New York. So I just met him through this friend, and then he had seen me act, and he just thought of me for that part. So there's no audition, which was awesome. Jackson was just like, I'm making this pilot. Do you want to play this character? And I thought,
Are you going to give me money? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, well, it wasn't even about the money. It wasn't even that much money at that time. You know, it was just like we were going to this pilot, which might just be a one-off, you know, maybe it'll never see the light of day. But then lo and behold,
It's been on
they agreed
television
with
for
the
20
theory.
years.
And then 20 years later, I'm still talking about it. And yeah, I do a little bit of convention circuit work like Comic-Con, and I go to other conventions now and then where I'll do like signed pictures and stuff. And people are always very, very happy to meet Dr. Venture, which is very nice because it's nice to connect with the fans. I got to tell you, this is not really a humble brag. This is just a straight up brag.
Oh, please brag. Brag away.
Because a humble brag is couched in a self-deprecating way, but this is not couched that way. I did a movie with Al Pacino. It's called You Don't Know Jack. It's from a few years ago. It's like an HBO film about Jack Kevorkian, the like suicide doctor guy. Remember that guy?
Dr. Kevorkian.
Yeah. So Al Pacino did. It's a really good movie directed by Barry Levinson about Dr. Kevorkian. And I have a nice little part in that where I play a journalist in Detroit, where Kevorkian was from. And I actually have a couple scenes with Pacino, which was a whole other story, which was amazing.
I'd love to hear that story too.
Point of this story is I'm in the makeup chair, and there's a makeup lady, and she's very nice. We're chatting. She's like, so what else have you done? And I'm like, oh, this and that. And then I mentioned, I'm like, I'm on this adult swim show called The Venture Brothers. And she goes, what? She stops. She's like, wait, who are you? And I go, oh, I'm Dr. Venture. And she literally like turns around like, oh, yeah. Like she can't believe it, you know? And then she said to me, she says, James, you have to understand, Al Pacino sits in this chair every morning. I am more starstruck meeting Dr. Venture than meeting Al Pacino. So that is the level. And for a working actor like me, who's not super famous, for someone to say, I'm more excited meeting Dr. Venture than Al Pacino, I'm like, well, I'll take it.
That is one hell of a compliment to be paid.
It made my day. It was, but that is the nature of the fans. They're so into the show. It really kind of connects with people in a wonderful way. But it's a really fun. If people haven't seen it, I mean,
I'd recommend the show.
It's really great. It's
was
really
a staple
funny.
of Adult
Really
Swim.
witty. And it has like the characters actually have like a dimension, and you get to care about them as the seasons go on.
Now, when they pitched you this show and you're just sitting there, I guess, doing the pilot and you're reading that first script, but you're just kind of looking through going, what the hell is this show?
Well, I got the basic idea from the beginning, which when it was conceived, it was basically a parody of Johnny Quest, which is the old 60s cartoon about a boy adventurer and his adventurer dad. And then I got that the concept was, okay, so Dr. Venture is like a Johnny Quest who's grown up. His super cool adventure father casts a big shadow over him. He's not as successful as his father. So he's like grown up, bitter, middle-aged Johnny Quest. And then he's got his own kids, but he's an asshole to them. And his kids are idiots. So I got the basic premise that it's like a parody of the Johnny Quest thing. But then the show just went off. Then the show created its own universe. It has its whole own world. And then, where to the point where there's so much detail that it's hard for me to keep up. Once Doc Hammer, who's the co-writer of the show, and I were at a convention, and we were doing an appearance. We did like a Q&A. And then the people running the convention had an idea, and they're like, we're going to do a Venture Brothers trivia contest, and it's going to be you and Doc versus the audience.
Ooh.
So the moderator read trivia, like, what was the name of this one character? And the audience totally won. Doc and I often could not remember stuff. We're like, I don't know. You tell. And the audience is like, episode 7, blah, blah.
Well, in season 5, episode 6, at exactly 12 minutes and 34 seconds in.
Yes, exactly. And So, but that was great because people really, you know, people retain it.
And a career span where you are more exciting to talk to than Al Pacino.
I mean, for that lady anyway.
Well, for that lady. I mean, look
God
through
bless her.
Oppenheimer,
God bless that makeup lady.
The Office, The Venture Bros, Law and Order, Sex and the City, all these credits, video games, and you beat out Panic in Needle Park, The Godfather, Heat, Scent of a Woman.
Yes.
Al Pacino.
Well, he's amazing. He's great. He's one of my favorites.
A small anecdote, I guess. My wife, she has not really seen as many Pacino films as I have, and now she's looking at me up from the couch and starting to smirk because she knows exactly what I'm about to say. We were sitting there. I was like, have you ever seen the movie Heat? And I was like, it's like De Niro and Pacino together. It's like, and they're on screen together, not like in Godfather Part 2, where you just get the flashbacks. And I was like, and she was starting to doze off, and I was like, you got to watch the part. And Al Pacino does like the cocaine-fueled rage turn and yells at the guy. He's like, 'cause she's got a great ass.
That's right.
And it's become a joke in this house for months now because, and you can hear someone in the other room just start doing the rumble. It's like, 'cause she's got a, and, splunge this Al Pacino impression.
That's an amazing moment because if you look at it just as a screenplay, that's just like a Jerry Orbach Law and Order type wisecrack. Like,
you get with that kind of look on his face and the sunglasses with the little.
Yeah, he's like, what's his face is sitting there in the chair, and Pacino is
Chris
going,
Noth is.
I'm spacing out, but the famous actor from The Simpsons, who's
And if we had an audience, they'd be yelling. They'd be yelling the answer at us right now if we had an audience.
Yes, no, everyone is yelling the answer.
I can't think of who it is. I'm totally blanking.
This is what happens in my old age. Stuff starts to fade away on me. Hank Azaria.
Yes.
So, Hank Azaria. My God, his name starts with an A. I should have just gone through the alphabet. Hank Azaria is this guy, and they're trying to solve this stuff, and they're like, hey, they're talking about some woman who's, and Hank Azaria is like, I don't know, I don't have the answer for you. And then the cop, Pacino's character, says, yeah, because she had a great ass and your head up it. Like that's like if that was on Law and Order, Jerry Orbach would just throw that away. Yeah, because you had a great ass and you had your head up. That's what that line is. But Pacino makes into a 5-course meal, an opera.
It's its own mini show.
And then Michael Mann shoots him from below, so it's even more heightened, She had a great ass. I mean, that's a legendary moment.
It's taking a throwaway line and turning it into its own mini film.
Totally. That's what I love about it.
The only other person I think who could do it and it'd be as memorable would probably be Christopher Walken, just because it'd be another.
Would do it. Yes,
because her ass is spectacular, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And another guy who early in his career would have done it like that is Gary Oldman, who often went for the big choice.
Yes, he would.
Like in the 80s. 90s.
Especially like Leon the Professional, Gary Oldman.
Forget about it. I mean, that's one of the great. And it's funny because I was talking about like less is more tends to be the thing in film, but these are classic exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Pacino and Heat, Oldman and The Professional. A lot of Nick Cage. He gets very big in a beautiful way. These are all really talented actors.
And his best line is a subtle line. I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence. Like, he doesn't just yell it. He's like, we're going to steal it. It's like all of a sudden, it's like, that's what is probably so funny that it's Nick Cage, because you expect like the wild kind of zany Nick Cage, but for him to dial it right back to one and just go, I'm going to steal the Declaration. Like he's Bond all of a sudden. It's like, wait, what?
And again, and then in contrast to like, she's got a great ass and you had your head up, and that's a throwaway, but I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence is a real big, that's an exclamation point statement. That he goes the opposite. That's the thing about the original actors. They'll trip you up. They won't do what you expect.
So in your acting experience, as you get scripts, and do you kind of look for that line where it's like a throwaway? It's like, it's like maybe I could put something extra into this.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, yeah, when you get a script and you're going through it, I tend to make notations and stuff. Like I like to have a hard copy,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and then I take a pencil and I just I start underlining things, or I'll even use a highlighter and be like, because you just try to find variation is what you're looking for. You're always trying to find variation in what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, so yeah, you try to find basically the thing that works is you just try to make it your own, whatever that is. So another actor might have gone as big as Pacino on that line, but maybe it wouldn't be as effective because that just seems to come out of Pacino's energy and personality, you know?
Mm-hmm. Now,
So you kind of want to do something that, is true to yourself. But the fact is, we all contain multitudes, as Walt Whitman said, any one of us, in any given moment of the day can be big, can be small. We all contain a lot of different emotion and variation. So it's just finding those variations, but trying to make them your own so they ring true, as opposed to just doing an effect, Like you really believe Pacino is that guy in Heat.
oh
even
yeah,
though
he sells it perfectly.
he sells it because he's great at that. But, he doesn't always do the understated naturalistic thing. But it just rings true. It doesn't seem fake. It doesn't seem phony. It's just like, this is the energy of this character. He's like this force, So that's the thing I try to do. I think most actors do. You just try to find the unique way of doing it that reflects yourself. But you don't want to be too timid either. Like, if it seems right to be big, go big. Try it.
What's
You
the
can
worst
always
that can
a director
happen?
will always go, oh, okay, the classic director, when they want a different take, is they say, we have that.
All right, we have that now. Thank you.
Most directors are really good at people skills, so they won't go, James, that sucks. They'll go, okay, we have that. Let's try one smaller. And we have that usually means, I don't know.
It's like,
Yeah.
why don't we try that again? But
Yeah, let's try another
just a
one.
little
And,
different.
I don't know. Let it go. Don't less acting this time. Like, okay.
Dial it back. Rein it in.
Usually they're right because the director sees the big picture. Sometimes the actor just sees that moment, but the director sees it within a greater context, and that's important. It's important to have that eye.
Definitely, that's why they got to be in the director's chair and making sure it all is that big picture scope. Now, what you were saying with the scripts and going through and you're reading into a character, you're learning this guy and you're making your little notations like, all right, maybe go big here, go there. It's like, do you ever look at lines and go, I don't think my character would even say that?
Well, I tend to just. It depends on the context, because that's definitely a thing where you need a certain connection. You have to be at a point where you and the director and sometimes the writer just have a kind of collaborative
Effort or environment.
effort. So yeah, so like if I'm hired by Steven Spielberg and I don't have super high status on that set. I'm there to do, probably a smaller part, and I'm just going to slow things down if I go, I don't think he'd say this. But usually in that situation, you just figure out why he's saying this. But I've done other films with directors, like I've worked with writer-directors on lower budget things where I have bigger parts, and they say, like, if you want to change the words so I have had those discussions, but when I know that it's cool to have them,
when the timing feels right and it's a good moment to just work that
and the
in.
personality that you can just tell that they're like, and that does happen to a degree in film where there is more of a looseness about the dialogue sometimes than like in a play where the text is sacred. You don't change.
It is word by word in that order,
Don't
and
change
only
Arthur
that
Miller,
order.
Chekhov or whatever, But yes, so I have done that when there is a sense of give and take, and that's considered cool to bring that stuff up. But I feel like sometimes maybe actors do that, but it's just because they haven't figured out the key to the scene. So they're like, can we change this? But not always. But sometimes I have occasionally seen actors who kind of slow things down, and they seem to be doing kind of a power thing. where they just kind of want to stop things because it's not so much about solving the problem of the scene as just them sort of showing some sort of power.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
I get what you
So
mean.
I'm very aware of sort of where I fit into a given environment and just wanting to be I'm very collaborative by nature. So, but I mean, I have, like I say, done that where the director's open to it, and it has been a good experience.
With you had mentioning that, it brought up an anecdote, and it's Python-esque. Terry Gilliam, when they were filming Time Bandits, I can't remember the actor's name who plays the Supreme Being or God, but they were
Ralph Richardson.
Ralph
British
Richardson. I
name,
knew it was
Ralph
Richardson. I didn't know. I didn't want to mess up his first name. I think it's Sir Ralph. Now passed away these many years, but a fantastic actor.
Awesome actor.
And they were on set, and they were looking at his script to see something, and he had crossed out lines and written his own in red. And they were like, "Why'd you cross these out?" And he was like, "God wouldn't say that." With the most serious look on his face that they believed him. They're like, "Okay, if
when you hire
so."
Ralph Richardson's a big shot, so when you hire him, you're like, "Go right ahead, Sir Ralph, cross him out." Also, there's related to that. I think it was Gary Cooper who would be like, "I want less dialogue. I want less to say, not more to say, or I don't want to change the line. I want no line," because he knew that a lot of film acting can be communicated just with a look. It makes maybe a character more interesting, especially if you're a leading man guy. If you say less, then the camera just catches your face, and you're processing something, and the audience is sort of leaning in, going, "What's going on? What's this guy thinking?" And that can be very powerful. So smart movie actors know that dialogue, it's not about how many lines you have. It can be quite the opposite. So that can also be a very helpful thing, is like, make me say less.
I don't want to talk that much.
Yeah. That's because it's cinema, it's visual. That's the primary thing about it.
It sounds like
I love words and language. I love playing like characters who talk a lot and have flowery speeches. I'm into that, and I think I sell that stuff well. But I also recognize that it's a visual medium, and sometimes you can say more with a look than with a speech.
And like John Wayne told Michael Caine years and years ago, he's like, "Hey, you're going to be a star." He's like, "But remember, talk low, talk slow, and don't ever wear suede shoes."
And I got to say, John Wayne is a classic example of that kind of acting, where less is more.
Less is definitely more, I think, with a classic Western actor. I mean, I grew up on the John Wayne movies, and it was always just John Wayne in that moment. It was never that character, but he was a character.
Yeah, well, he's one of those guys who, I mean, he does adapt his persona from film to film, but there's basically a certain persona and a certain way of speaking that he brings to everything. And, that's a kind of leading actor style that I enjoy watching. And on the other hand, I like the chameleon actors like Daniel Day-Lewis or whoever. Daniel Day-Lewis doesn't have a persona. He's whatever the character is. He changes his voice. He looks different, John Wayne, you're going to get John Wayne. Daniel Day-Lewis, and they're both equally great. They're just
in different aspects. They are their
different styles. It's like two different types of music. Like you be in a jazz and you're in a rock and roll. One's not better than the other. They're just different, Yeah.
People's like, "Oh, Chicago's way better than Led Zeppelin." It's like, well, it's like they're both two fantastic groups that were, storied careers, but at the same time, it's like they're great, but in a different way. From each other.
Exactly.
And I know Hayden would kill me if I didn't mention it, and we bring it up, and I wanted to save it for the end. There's one acting credit that popped up. It's by his favorite director that you happen to star in, is Oppenheimer.
Oh, yeah. I have I'm in it very briefly, but it was a great experience. Yeah. The great Christopher Nolan.
What was it like being on the Oppenheimer set for your brief time?
It was nice. Mr. Nolan was very pleasant, but he was more just like focused on the camera and stuff, and there wasn't a lot of discussion with me. I play a colleague of Einstein's, and I'm in a scene where Oppenheimer goes to talk to Einstein at the institute where he works. I'm there, and but I got to say, Cillian Murphy was a real sweet guy, and like I spent a fair amount of time talking to him. And I got to say, he's amazing in the movie, but he's He's not one of these guys who like stays in character between shots. Like between shots, he was talking in his normal Irish accent, and he was just very friendly and relaxed. Oh yeah, how you doing? You know, and he's just talking to you, and then your action is like, "Excuse me, Mr. Einstein." You know,
I'm
like
Dr.
he just turned it
Oppenheimer.
on. He just turned it on, like the voice, that kind of mid-Atlantic American accent that he's doing
Mhm.
in that movie, and then cut, and then he's just chill Killian again. You know,
Chill Killian
uh,
again.
chill Killian, Chillian, Cillian Murphy. But that was awesome. It's just fun to be a part of something. That was also great because, you know, when you're like me, I do a lot of like, I tend to have big parts in small movies and small parts in big movies. So, like, Oppenheimer is one of the biggest movies of that year, but
Mhm.
I'm in it very briefly. And when you're an actor, you tend to assume, oh, what if I don't make the cut? Like, they don't really need me in that scene. Maybe they'll cut it out, you know. It's
Mhm.
going to be a long movie. So I didn't see the movie. I didn't go to any screenings beforehand. I paid a ticket and went to see it, you
You
know, when it
paid to
came out.
see a film you were in.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know, there's a million people in that movie. They couldn't
Mhm.
bring everyone to the premiere or whatever, you
Mhm.
know. Well, and that was fine. That's normal. I don't mind that. It's not an issue at all that I wasn't on the red carpet for my like 1 minute scene. But I'm sitting there next to my wife and I'm nervous. I'm like, yeah, but
I don't know if
maybe
they
I won't
cut
even
me.
be in it. And I wasted $15 on this fucking movie. And then the scene showed up, and like everything I shot is in it. And even like a little silent moment where you just kind of see me reacting to something.
Mhm.
So I thought, oh, okay, good. That's nice. And that Mr. Nolan like was like, oh no, we can let this small performance land. We'll give this character credit, even though he's in it very briefly.
Mhm.
Um, so that was really nice. That was sort of because, you know, my thing is, um, I once heard a description of someone, and they were described as a pessimist who likes to be surprised.
I've heard
And
that
that's sort
quote
of,
before, but I
yeah,
can't
Steven
attribute it.
Soderbergh quoted a friend of his saying that's how he described himself. And that's kind of my approach to acting. You're like, well, maybe I'll get cut out because you kind of have, you know, you audition for stuff, you don't get
Mhm.
it. You can't really let it get to you. So you, at least I tend to operate with a bit of skepticism, pessimism, not even pessimism so much as skepticism. Let's amend
Mhm.
that. I'd say I'm a skeptic who likes to be surprised. So, you know, when you're an actor, when you're a working actor, it's very common that things don't work out. Like I make a living at this and I'm very happy and I am in a privileged position, but I
Mhm.
still audition every week for stuff I don't get. I have been cut out of things that I shot and I'm excited about and then I'm not in it. This happens to every actor. So, you know, you're kind of just prepared for something not working out. So when you have a small part in a blockbuster and you don't know if you're in it, that's it's just in your head.
Mhm.
But then when the scene goes by, you're like, okay, good.
When you popped up on screen, were you like giving your wife the nudge, like, "Hey, look, it's me"?
Yeah, then I'm doing like a fist bump. Yeah.
It's like, yes, they kept me in the movie.
Yes, exactly.
So I guess the acting career of, you know, the trials and tribulations, it's like being a baseball player. It's like you're gonna strike out. There's no way you're not gonna. It's not gonna
Yeah,
happen.
yeah, but you're in the show, as they say, and that's
Mhm.
a cool place to be.
You
So,
might get on base. You might hit a home run. You never know.
yeah,
You just
there
gotta.
you
You
go.
just
But
gotta
at
keep
least you're
swinging.
and it's fun to try.
Before we
Exactly.
start wrapping up, I like to ask people, what was your favorite role that you did?
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, Tom Paine, that play I talked about.
Mhm.
For some reason, I played a fair number of real people. Like the guy in Oppenheimer uh, was a famous physicist named Kurt Gödel,
Mhm.
German physicist who was a friend of Einstein. So that character is sort of an Easter egg. It's like, oh, there's Kurt Gödel. You know, people who are in the. I didn't know who he was when I got the movie, but he's very well known in
Mhm.
that world. You know. So another real guy I played was the underground cartoonist Robert Crumb. You know Robert Crumb? He was a cartoonist in the 60s. He created like Fritz the Cat and stuff, and a great sort of underground cartoonist who came out of that movement in the 60s. And there's a great movie called American Splendor, which is actually about a friend of Crumb's, a guy named Harvey Picar, who, to bring it back, used to be on the David Letterman show in the 80s. Harvey Picar was a comic book writer who wrote autobiographical comics about himself and his life as a Cleveland file clerk and sort of ornery hipster. And
it was impressive how you just brought that full circle back to Letterman.
Yes, but Robert Crumb was a friend of his. And like I said before, again, when I was young, I wanted to be a cartoonist, and I was and still am a fan of Robert Crumb. So I got to play Robert Crumb in this movie. This is a movie from like early 2000s, and Paul Giamatti plays Harvey Picar. So all my scenes are with Paul Giamatti, who's a great actor and a great guy, and so fun to act with. And I played this real guy. So I got super into like trying to do when you're playing a real person, you kind of want to honor that person, but you're also playing a character who's separate from that real person. You're not really that guy. You're an idea of that person. You know what I'm saying? But Crumb has a very specific voice. He talks very different than me. He's got more of this kind of back of the throat, internal kind of voice. So you have to kind of do that. So just because I was a fan of the guy, and it had very specific challenges to kind of play my version of him, that was a favorite. It was just all these aspects came together that were cool. I get to play Robert Crumb, and I get to work on being like him. So that was definitely a highlight, that one. But, everything has its challenges and everything has its pleasures. And I'll tell you one more, though. There's a great little independent film that's actually out there now. It's streaming. You can find it on most platforms. It's called Breakup Season. It's written and directed by a guy named Nelson Tracy. And in that movie, I play a dad in a family who's got like grown kids, like college-age kids.
Okay.
And the thing with me is I actually am a dad in real life of college students, but I tend not to be cast as that. And this dad is a nice guy. He's a little derpy in the dad way, but he's nice. He's empathetic. He's kind of sweet. And for some reason, just because of the way I land to casting people and directors, I play a lot of weirdos and creeps, like Robert Crumb's a little weird. Tom Paine is a sort of difficult character, but this guy's just like a nice guy. And in a funny way, that was a challenge for me because I was like, oh, this is awesome. How do I make a nice guy interesting? How do I make interesting a guy who's not a psycho or a perv
or neurotic or something? It's like you're not giving me what I need.
Right. How do I make this an interesting character? And I feel like it worked. And great director who really helped me find that character. In fact, sidebar, my wife says that that's one of her favorite performances of mine. So that means a lot. So that, in a funny way, was another great challenge, playing a guy kind of without like rough edges. But how do you make that not boring, So that was the fun one, the dad and Breakup Season.
I played basically myself.
We do need to talk about this podcast I'm on now, because I know that was what originally brought me to you. This show called In Media Res, which is a great scripted podcast, which is related to the voiceover thing.
There's a couple. There's another guy we had talked to. He does like a podcast, but it's a drama that's scripted, and it's based on Power Rangers. Which
well, this is a cool thing. This is another thing that I'm super into, because, as you know, like before TV, scripted shows were on radio. So you'd have dramas, mysteries, comedies. The first sitcoms were on the radio. So it's just voice acting, And there's kind of I'm sorry. There's an automatic cat feeder behind me that's making some noise now, but part of the environment, it's real. So we'll just deal with that. Okay, it's done. But there's kind of a revival of that form with podcasting. There are all these like scripted dramas and comedies, and some of them get like famous actors in them. And you're doing these stories, but it's all audio, sound effects. And it really is a throwback to like, the old golden age of radio.
Like with The Shadow, like Orson Welles' great reading.
Orson Welles Orson Welles started doing that before he made movies, and that was the big thing. War of the Worlds
It was
famously
like
freaked people out because
our
at the time it
friend
sounded
of ours
very
on our
real.
show. He has the originals. He has the copies, or he has the rights to it.
Oh, who does?
Friend of ours, Joey Thurmond, actor, and he's also getting into the music business now. But he has the War of the Worlds, like the original, I guess, recordings of it, and has the rights to it.
Well, that's a great show. It holds up actually, that show, because he did it. He basically, that's like an early version of a found footage horror movie, because that Orson Welles War of the Worlds, it starts out, it's like a music show. They're like, and now the so-and-so orchestra from the so-and-so ballroom. And then they play music for a while. And then the guy's like, excuse me, we interrupt this program. And then they're talking about some weird thing that happened in New Jersey. And then it's like aliens. And at the time, a lot of people bought it.
And real people are knocking down water towers because they think
people freaked out. Martians. And it also, I think, because it was like around 1939, so the war in Europe was happening, and we hadn't joined the war yet, but there was a lot of anxiety about that. So people in America were really kind of anxious about like war. And then
Orson Welles was selling.
And then Orson Welles is a very head of the curve, smart guy. So then he makes like a found footage version where it really sounds like it's happening in real time on the radio. And a lot of people bought it, understandably, But that's what made him super famous. That's how he got like his Citizen Kane contract. Because they're like, well, this kid,
this guy's going places.
Good ideas. Yeah, he's got cojones and he's got some good ideas.
Next thing you know,
but anyway, I just wanted to mention this show, which I really love being a part of. This woman named Rachel Music created it. She has a production company called Good Story Guild, and they are making these scripted podcasts. And the one I'm on, it's called In Media Res, and it's basically about like, the idea of the show is it's fictional. So there's like a James Bond style movie franchise. And then that's been around for decades, a la James Bond. And then there's a young actor who gets chosen to be the new James Bond. In this case, the character's name is Jack Steller. And so the show is like a Hollywood satire about what happens to this kind of young unknown guy who's suddenly put into the frying pan, as it were. They're like, here's your new Jack Steller. So you've got people who are into that. You've got people who are like, no, horrible.
He's not nearly as good as the first guy.
He's not nearly as good as the old guy, And then you've got like the guy's family and friends who are like, now this guy's like on the superstar track and the studio is grooming him. So it's about this sort of tumultuous experience that this young actor has. And then my part is super fun because I'm like a sort of adjacent character in each episode. Rachel's also a musician. Her name is Rachel Music, and nominative determinism is what we call that, Tom. But Rachel has composed and sings these songs that in each episode we have a song that's supposed to be a la a James Bond theme. So, and they go back to like the 60s or whatever.
Like Goldfinger
so
Thunderball.
I played like an NPR type music host guy. Those guys who talk a lot about music. In 1941, this was done at this studio, and blah, blah, played bass, So I'm like one of those guys.
Buddy Rich.
But yeah, exactly. Buddy Rich was yelling at his band on the bus.
I'm going to take you outside.
I'm like a DJ who, it's a little sort of capper to each episode where I then introduce these original songs, which are really great, which are sort of in all different genres. So like in the 60s, there's like a Shirley Bassey Goldfinger type parody. Then we have one from like the 80s that's more like new wave.
You got A View to a Kill?
Yeah. So they're like different genres. So that's my part, but it's great. And that's an aspect of acting that I really enjoy and I've kind of gotten into. And then meanwhile, sidebar, I have my own writing partner, and we've written and produced a bunch of our own scripted shows, and are actually trying to get a new one in the works. But it's really fun because it's like an old form, the old radio drama form that's now got a new life in it, and people are into these shows. So it's a very cool thing. I'm very into like the audio drama thing.
The more things change, the more things kind of just stay the same.
Totally. And I got to say, related to that, I'm more optimistic than skeptical about like AI and all that. Like, I think it's a serious concern, but I also think that people just they want to hear human stories, and they want to see human people perform or listen to people perform. And they want stuff with a point of view, not just a, aggregation of information that a robot is presenting us
Not
with.
20 minutes of television with 10 minutes of ads, and you can't skip any
The
of them.
thing is, people have always loved like stories in whatever form they take. And now there's like a resurgence of, radio style drama that you can listen to on your computer or, whatever. And, but it's true. The more things change, because people just have an interest in this stuff, and they always will. So there you go.
Well,
but I got my plug in.
I was just about to ask before we wrapped up, and I just want to say again, thank you for taking time on a Friday to meet with us and be on our pokey little podcast. What if there was anything you wanted to plug? Which I know your show.
I have there's a really fun show on Apple Plus called Palm Royale that Kristen Wiig is the star of.
Okay.
It's a comedy set in the 1960s in Palm Beach, and it takes place at like a fancy country club. And Kristen Wiig is a sort of social climber who kind of finagles her way into this country club in the sort of jet set of Palm Beach in the 60s. So it's really fun. It's a period thing, bouffant hairdos, cool old sports cars, the whole deal. And I play like the persnickety manager of the club. So, I'm like, excuse me,
are
you
madam,
supposed to be here? That kind of guy. And I'm in a bunch of episodes in season 1, which is out there, but we just finished shooting season 2, and they actually gave me more to do this season. So that's super cool.
That's awesome. He's going, madam, did you drive here in a Ford?
Exactly. But now I kind of get into more hijinks and stuff. And so that'll be coming up probably like, I don't know, I'd say later this year, And then, there are just these other independent films that I'm in that are either out there. Breakup Season, I recommend, the movie that I mentioned. And again, if people haven't seen The Venture Brothers, I'd say dip your toe in. You might enjoy it.
I think they just need to watch that one clip with Brock Sampson crushing that guy's hand with his butt.
Sampson
and just
crushing a guy with his buttocks. Hey man, he's a MacGyver. He's a regular MacGyver with his own body.
I would love to high five whoever wrote that, because I don't want to shake his hand because he might crush mine.
It was either Jackson or Doc would have come up with that one. Yeah.
Well, James,
thank you for having me. It was fun.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and we're gonna wrap up now. And just want to say thank you to all of our listeners out there, especially everybody in Greenland. We know you guys have been listening big time. We saw the analytics, and we want to say thank you. Australia, you're letting us down. Germany, you need to catch back up. And sorry, Matt Damon, we ran out of time.